Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show, Operation Freedom, is to provide you information the bought-off, lamestream, fake media will not provide. As far as the radio show, it airs live every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. You can watch it, listen to it live, free, by going to davejanda.com, hitting the Listen Live button on the web homepage. It'll take you to Wham Talk 1600 streaming service. Hit that, and you're with us. Great guests, great analysis. In fact, one of the guests from this past week, Alex Newman from the New American Magazine, did a really great dissection analysis of the election. Our subscribers asked that I put that up on YouTube for you, for the public. So we did that. So on Monday, we put that video or audio video up for you to enjoy, to listen to, and to network. Many people say, well, how can I help? How can I want to help? I want to help this effort of undoing this totalitarian ripoff, potential attempted ripoff of the election. What can I do? Well, number one, don't watch the bought-off lamestream fake media, including Fox. And we've talked about that before. Two, take the information that's provided on this channel, on other independent media channels, and network it to your family and friends, coworkers, neighbors, because they undoubtedly are probably not as enlightened as you are on the truth. And just say, well, this is something I heard, and this is something, here's where you can find it on YouTube. Or you can go to davejanda.com, and there's some information in the red box with General McInerney and Sidney Powell. It's free. You can hit it, listen to it. So one thing is networking information. The other thing, and times are tough financially, but there has been an organization started to focus on the legal challenges to the election. And you have to be very careful on some of those. I'm not going to send money to the Republican RNC-sponsored defense fund. Why? Because it's going to go into some kookaless pocket like Romney or who knows. Forget that. So Sidney Powell has started a nonprofit that focuses on the legal defense of every American's freedom. I know Sidney. I consider her a friend. She is incredibly honest. She is a warrior and dedicated to freedom and liberty. Just look at what she has done to help General Flynn. So the organization is called defendingtherepublic.org. Defendingtherepublic.org. O-R-G, not .com, .org, O-R-G. I've donated there. Why? Because I know that money is going to go right to where it's supposed to be used for the legal defense of every American's freedom and liberty and establish election integrity. And I believe that ultimately will happen. Now, the deep state, as opposed to what everybody wants you to think that, it's President-elect Biden and it's over and it's not. And he's not President-elect. Remember, one more time. Until the electors are chosen on December 14th, he's not president-elect. He's not. And frankly, I don't think he ever will be. Because the deception, the manipulation, the criminality that was perpetrated before the election and during the election, that is going to become very, very apparent in the days and several weeks ahead. I am very confident in that. So many people believe the deep state's in the driver's seat and it's all over. No, I believe they're panicked and desperate. Let me give you an example. This past Sunday on the radio show, we've ever since the show came into being 10 years ago, we've gotten a lot of heat from the deep state. A lot of shills out there trying to urinate on our leg as often as they can. Slander, misrepresentation, libel, you name it, defamation, you name it. And they're all shills. They're all deep state shills that do this because they are so fearful of people getting educated and empowered with the facts about empowering people and their freedoms. This past Sunday, and starting a couple months ago, the attacks really started to escalate. And this past Sunday, about 1:50, Derek, my engineer, and I were going back and forth, getting things ready to go. And all of a sudden, whammo. We just got shut down. It was done. So if we're not for Derek and his expertise, he got things moving back and got things back up in the show, but the show was able to be broadcast. And we had a little kind of hiccups the first half hour, and we had no communication between the two of us because of our lines of communication had been cut. But Derek got them reestablished. We got our guests reestablished. Everything went without a hitch. But that shows you how desperate they are. That's not a sign of being in power, of winning. It's a sign of desperation. It's a sign of panic. Another sign of panic is we did this interview with General McInerney 2 days before the election. And it was about how the deep state was going to use cyber warfare through electronic means and alter the election, manipulate the election, create a fraudulent election. Remember, we did that 2 days before. And as soon as we did that interview on that Sunday night on the radio, we uploaded it on YouTube. And it was on YouTube until 7:11 in the morning, election day. And it got taken down. So our IT team, led by Nick, jumped on it, got it right up on the homepage. It's still there in a red box. And if you haven't listened to that interview, you need to, and pass it on to your friends and family and neighbors and coworkers, because it speaks about, people say, how did we get in this election mess? General McInerney gives you a 2-day notice of what they were going to do. Listen to that interview. And then Sidney Powell talked about it and the information General McInerney had presented 3 days after the election with Lou Dobbs. And that is there. And then General McInerney, he was featured on OAN this past Friday, and that is also in the red box. So an easy thing to do is tell your friends, go to davejanda.com, go to the red box near the top of the homepage, and listen to those 3 things. And they, if they've been watching the bought-off lamestream fake media, will be shocked. It'll wake them up. And it gives them a heads up as far as what's coming. Now, let's go back in time a little bit. What was attempted in this election was outlined by Joseph Stalin, the Soviet dictator, many years ago. Quote, "I consider it completely unimportant who in the party will vote or how. But what is extraordinarily important is this: who will count the votes and how?" So some folks ask me, Dave, what's a very concise way of saying what happened with the election? Okay, so here's about as quick as a description. It's a very detailed situation, as you well know. I can show you a flow diagram that would take up half the wall behind me of what happened. But in a nutshell, the key to manipulating the votes, creating an illegitimate election, the key to that is to be able to use the internet to do the dirty, if you will. Whether it's to alter the software on a voting machine, like Dominion's software was bad, there was already some badness impregnated in it. But if there's access from the internet as well, you can make that badness, you can actually dial that badness around on that voting machine like a thermostat, or on the tabulator machines in each precinct. So, to do the dirty, you have to have access to the internet. And that can alter the software on a voting machine to enable vote fraud, or intercepting the vote tallies on the internet and creating new results. Results, in this case, that benefited Biden and harmed President Trump to a huge degree by millions of votes. Remember, anytime a packet of votes is transported over the internet, that packet becomes vulnerable to a hack, a breach. And when that breach occurs, manipulation of votes and tallies occur. Now look, initially, when many of us in the independent media, no one in the bought-off lamestream fake media, in the independent media brought this information forward about how votes could be changed and flipped and reduced and deep-sixed and modified and added to Biden and subtracted from Trump. The statements were made. You can't do that. Can't happen. No. It has. No, that just happened on November 3rd. It happened in the primaries when Biden used it to get rid of Bernie this year. And it happened in 2016 when Hillary used it to get rid of Bernie in 2016. How do I know? I've seen the data. It's unequivocal. But it was also used, I believe, in the 2018 midterm election. Remember similar situation, right? All these Republicans were winning. And then after midnight, all of a sudden, the vote tallies stopped. And then all of a sudden, whoa, all of this flood. And next thing you know, over the next couple days, they lost. It's the same thing. It's the same type of approach that's been used by the CIA in throwing elections around the world. You don't have to believe me. General McInerney spoke about it. Sidney Powell's spoken about it. Many other people have spoken about it. But what they're going to do is they're going to try to tell you, this is just a software glitch. Now look, software glitches occur, but they're random. This wasn't random. And this wasn't a glitch. Several words that you're going to hear are that chain of custody over the ensuing weeks. The chain of custody is when you go into a voting booth and vote. And what's the chain of custody of your vote? Right? Many people think, well, you vote and you take and you put it in the, like here in Michigan, you put it in the thing and it's tallied, and then it goes right from there. Well, somehow it gets to the Secretary of State's office. Whoa. No. There's a whole lot of steps, a whole lot of switching that goes on between when you put your ballot in that tabulator and when it gets recorded at the Secretary of State in your respective state. It's a mess. And you're going to see some outstanding work done and presented. And there's already been some. There's been a great video presentation by Dr. Shiva along with Phil Evans, who is a fantastic data analyst. He has given his life for the last decade in forensic election analysis. And just to give you a little highlight, just in 3 counties here in Michigan in the 2020 election, here's what their preliminary results show. In Macomb County, 28,000 votes absentee were flipped from Trump to Biden. In Oakland County, 40,000 absentees were flipped. In Macomb County on Election Day, 5,000 were flipped from Trump to Biden. Oakland County on Election Day, 20,000 were flipped from Trump to Biden. And in Kent County, both Election Day and absentee total, 50,000 votes were switched from Trump to Biden. Now, we have many dozens of counties in the state of Michigan. But if we just look at those 3, 143,000 votes were flipped from Trump to Biden. That's some preliminary. And Dr. Shiva's done a very good video on that along with Phil Evans. And they have another one coming out as I understand it. So when you discuss this with friends and family, and if you didn't see the video I did last week speaking about hammer and scorecard and some analogies about driving on a highway and how it can be, please go back to that video from a week ago. It really puts, if you will, I try to break it down into the highway, the cars being packets of information, and how the votes were stolen. And a lot of people like that and have used it actually to explain it to their kids. So go back to that video a week ago. Hopefully it helps. But if you wanted to describe this whole goat rodeo of an election and the election process preceding and afterwards, how would you describe it? It was a multi-level, multifaceted, coordinated criminal vote fraud operation. And understand something, this just didn't start a couple days before November 3rd. This has been set up for years. And in fact, I believe COVID is linked to the election. You see, and one of the best analytical electioneers, if you will, out there, data analysts, is Rich Burris. And he was on an interview. He said COVID was used to change election laws as a setup to steal the election in 2020. I believe he's correct. It was. But they're going to try to convince you that it was all a little software random glitch. No. It was multi-level, multifaceted. It was coordinated. And it was criminal. So we have COVID. The planning and command and control of this operation has been in the works for years because they knew they could try to shuck and jive and do everything in their power with the fake Russian hoax and Ukraine hoax and the impeachment hoax to try to get Trump off his game so he couldn't get things through. And if you look at what he did, I mean, it's incredible. On every front of what he and his administration accomplished, in spite of all that other garbage they were throwing on him to try to block him. And they knew they could try to do this for one term. But the term that's the end of the deep state would be a second Trump term. And this is why they've been working on it for years. So, multifactorial. Unleash COVID, from the technocracy China, right? Their virus. That just didn't, remember that? Oh, bat soup and, stop. It was a bioweapon. We've discussed this for 10 months on this platform. It was deliberate. And it was deliberately walked into the West and into our country. Period. And it was to ultimately cause societal and economic unrest. But the Trump administration, we had some tough times, but they kept it under control. And they weren't counting on him actually stopping the travel from China on January 29th, 2020. All the advisors, Fauci and all these other clowns, were telling him not to do it. Oh, no, that. And what did Biden say? That's xenophobic. Oh, no. That's actually a great public health move, what he did. But all the chirping birds around him were saying, don't do that. Yeah. Thank God the boss didn't listen to them. And he listened to himself. So, COVID was the setup. It was the setup. And then they instituted the mail-in voting fiasco, and then they hit you with the fake polls to try to suppress you and depress you and break you to not go and vote. Well, that wasn't working. Just look at all those tens of thousands of folks that showed up for those Trump rallies. That wasn't working. So then they paraded out their their fake endorsements, right? Oh, 3 former heads of the CIA. Well, okay. There's reason enough to believe something, right? When Pompeo was the head of the CIA, what did he say? He goes, yeah, at the CIA, we lie, we cheat, we steal. Huh. And these deep state clowns bring out 3 former CIA directors, one of which is Brennan, under Obama, and say, oh, you should listen to them and you should vote for Biden. And you know what? Everybody said, I won't do the hand sign, but go take a hike. So that wasn't working. So what did they do? They instituted a multi-level, multifaceted, coordinated criminal vote operation on many fronts. I grew up in Chicago. I know how elections were stolen. I saw it. So, part of the thing are having the dead vote and ripping up people's ballots that voted for the wrong side being the Trump side. The other thing is making fake ballots and bringing them in, stuffing ballot boxes. I mean, that's the tried and true Chicago method. But they did some other things electronically. I believe they preloaded votes on the voting machines, probably at a maybe 3% level, maybe a little more, a little less. They put write-in ballots in these machines ahead of time that could be changed to their guy Biden anytime they wanted. Again, software issues. And again, not just software glitch. No, that's not a random thing. They had a command and control structure. This is where those issues that I described last week, Hammer and Scorecard, come into effect, right? Hammer breaches into the system. Scorecard then gets in there and starts messing with the data, with the votes, altering. Can get in there and affect the software. Software was an open door. It was essentially a key under the doormat for these criminals, for the way it was constructed through Dominion and these other corporations to allow this vote stealing to occur. But the feeling, and I believe the deep state felt that, well, either Biden's going to win if we do this right, or Trump will win, but not by much, and then we can go into how we steal it in the middle of the night routine, right? With the shoving of hundreds of thousands of votes in, right? Either fraudulently with the fraudulent ballots, but easier electronically. And that's their model. That's what they've done in other countries. That's what they've done in 2018. That's what they did what Biden did to Sanders to get rid of him in the primary, what Hillary did to Biden in the primaries in 2016. Frankly, if anybody should be upset about what happened here, it should be the Bernie bros. Those that voted for Bernie and felt that he got gypped in 2016 by Hillary and got gypped in 2020 by Biden. He didn't get gypped, he got robbed. So frankly, rather than going around and torching cities, what the Bernie bros should be doing is finding all the goons that supported Biden and Hillary and hold them accountable. They should be protesting around those people's houses. They should be hanging around around Club Clinton and hanging out around Club Biden and asking them, hey, exactly, why did you do this to our guy Bernie? I mean, Trump didn't do anything to Bernie. Trump was trying to uphold election integrity. I mean, just look at 2016. They accused President Trump and his administration and campaign of colluding with Russia, when in fact, it was Hillary Clinton that paid, and the DNC paid, along with Hillary, for the fake Russian dossier to slander, libel, defame, and caused the whole Russia hoax goat rodeo. Same people. So all these Bernie bros and Antifa clowns and BLM people terrorizing, dudes, what are you doing? You're directing this at innocent people. Your enemy, your Antifa and BLN's enemy, are the people that stole this from their guy Bernie, who they seem to be infatuated with. Just saying. Just saying. And in fact, you know what? You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. Let me bring up, and I've played this before on the radio show, and we played it here on YouTube, but we're going to play it again. Joe Biden, he told you that he ripped off Bernie, and he told you that he was going to rip off Trump. I mean, come on, face it. The guy hung out in his basement for months. He knew that he didn't have to do anything to win this thing. Because of this, listen.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Well, it's not me saying it. Right out of the horse's mouth. I mean, I realize the guy is cognitively challenged, but occasionally he speaks the truth. You see, it was a voter fraud operation. And all of this was done on purpose. Why? To remove President Trump, but to install this totalitarian regime with this puppet Biden there. Come on, we all know. The guy can't even look at a menu and decide what he wants to eat, right? And he's going to be president of the United States? No, it's the people behind him. And the people behind him are all deep state globalist shills. And they're there to strip you of your freedoms and liberties. It's that simple. And there are a number of patriots that have stepped up and told you what they're all about and what they were going to do. Listen to that interview with General McInerney that YouTube liked so much that they deep sixed it. But we got it up on the website at davejanda.com. I want to play a clip for you from Sidney Powell. 3 days after the election, Sidney Powell was on Lou Dobbs. Now remember, the verboten terms on any platform are hammer about the illegal surveillance system that can bust a breach into the internet, right? And it can do a lot of different things, and it can have a lot of different what are called exploits, a lot of different, if you will, tentacles. One of which is this scorecard tentacle that can change votes, right? It can alter software, like Dominion software. It can interdigitate with it, right? It can do the dirty on the tabulators. It can do the dirty on the transfer points of the data, right? And again, this is not a software glitch that they're going to try to peddle. A software glitch is essentially what they're telling you is a random event. And, Dave from X22 Report said it. This is a directed programmed response, and it has a singular task, and it's one-sided. To take votes from Trump and give them to Biden. But Sidney Powell was on Lou Dobbs, and I want to play for you what she said.
Your thoughts first about the knowledge now that the Justice Department is involved in this review of the election.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I think there are any number of things they need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President Trump, just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Well, Cindy, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated, probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
And there you have it.